What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode here on The Compass with Dr. Matthew Norton. This is episode 3, and this is a show about guiding growth through the power of coaching. The first couple of episodes, episode 1, had the opportunity to have Dr. Norton speak a little bit about his story, which I thought was so important to lay that groundwork, not only about why he is passionate about coaching, but the journey that he took to get here. And I think more importantly, for those of you that are either looking to learn how to become certified by the program that he's put together, and or work, together with him. I mean, really looking inward and understanding like his why and his story, we thought was important. Episode 2, we touched on a little bit about you and what does it take to be a coach and things like that. And so today's episode with Matthew, we're going to get into 2 different paths of how you could actually be, come into this certification with People Plus Purpose, and have Matthew share a little bit about that. So Matthew, it's good to have you back. How you doing?
I'm doing great, John. It's always good to be back, like every day to be back.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into today's episode a little bit. And as we jump right in, I'd love to have you share with everybody maybe the first of these 2 career situations that would lead somebody to learn more about your coaching certification program, but more importantly, actually execute on that to help them, based on where they are in their journey.
Okay, thanks. So, the first one would be that you're not a coach currently, but you have an interest in exploring coaching as a career or as the next phase of your career, even part-time. So let's talk about some of the key factors involved if that's your situation. So first of all, I just want to say that coaching itself is an incredibly rewarding career. We talked about this a little bit before. But it's one key element of that, I think, is the many freedoms that are associated with a career in coaching. So the freedom to work from home being one of those, to choose who you work with, to choose your coaching focus, and also to choose your hours. So a lot of times I think people are looking for greater freedom in their career decision-making or into the next phase of their career. I love what I'm doing, but I really would like to have more freedom to do it the way I would like to do it. A second element of that is that I just really feel like there is such great fulfillment to be experienced in helping people develop their potential and to experience breakthroughs in their lives and their business. The word breakthrough is key for me. I love helping people be able to recognize where there are blockages, where they have stuck places, either personally, interpersonally with the people on their team or people in their lives, where their business, as they look ahead to the vision that they want to fulfill, is there something that process-wise, system-wise, what are some of the next steps? Where are they getting snagged so that we can help them really have breakthroughs? And so maybe more specifically, you could help people, you could coach them in their finances to create more wealth, or with their business systems, processes, or technology. You could coach them with their personal or business relationships, including communication and conflict resolution. You could help them with their vision, mission, and goals, or with their hiring. You could coach them in their productivity and profitability, or with their leadership development, just to name a few possibilities. So there's a lot of freedom there as well as to kind of the breakthroughs or kind of next step opportunities that you want to help people with.
Are some of those options that you shared, are you framing out there like what a coaching career would look like? Is that kind of what you were getting at to paint that picture? Because I know we're going to get into the framework of actually how you can make that happen and the bridges that you have built like through your certification program. But is that like giving some of those examples? Is that a good way to define like what a coaching, career could look like for somebody?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when people think about coaching, they think, well, what am I going to coach? Or what would the coach certification teach me to coach? And the answer to that is we're really providing a way of seeing and a process format for coaching, but it's not specific to say, oh, you're going to coach. We're going to teach you to coach on systems and processes, or we're going to teach you to coach on how to optimize the relationships in the business, or any of those other things I mentioned. It can be any of those things. So it's a very broad arena that you can play in, and I want people to understand that.
Got it. I'm excited for the work that you're doing for a lot of different reasons, but I want to bring up an example that maybe most people watching this may have seen, but I'm talking about YouTube for a second, Matthew. So like, for example, I have found myself, at times around the house, whether it be the mow or something that breaks down, and I don't have any expertise in that. And so I find myself going down the rat hole of what could be YouTube. But I bring that up because, interestingly enough, what I've learned over the last couple of years is how many people out there, to your point, have found a subject that they're passionate about, and they are helping people with that. And I think sometimes that when we think about coaching, it's like it has to be some, this high arcing, concept or whatever the case may be. And I think what's exciting about what you're doing is that, based on what it is that somebody's passionate about, what their expertise in, they just need that framework, right, to kind of help them get started, which that's what you're helping people with. But can you talk about that for a little bit? Because I feel like now more than ever, you mentioned freedom and the excitement, a lot of this, it's just a matter of, I guess, making that decision and taking that next step sometimes.
Yeah. I think part of it is just kind of getting clear on what your values are. What are you passionate about? When you think about what inspires you, it can be, we'll talk about that in a few minutes in terms of maybe where this could fit in your career pathway, that arc of your career. But I think it really is a framework for being able to take whatever is inside you and to be able to help other people with that. You don't have to already have expertise that you've mastered. You can develop that. This can be the thing that you're developing and mastering. And I think it's really the heart to help people. It's really the heart to help people and to make a difference and be able to do it more broadly.
Can you elaborate just a little bit more on the subject of still developing your skill that you're going to coach somebody on? Because I think a lot of times, Matthew, like regardless of what industry it is, I think people feel like when they're going to go work with a coach, the expectation is, and we might have talked about this in a previous episode, but the expectation is that individual, has to have all of the answers or what have you, more so that people feel comfortable that there's that credibility there. Can you touch on that fine line between having the credibility to be a coach, but like you just mentioned, also knowing that it's lifelong development in that skill, even as the coach? It's like you're never going to be all the way there. It's an evolving process. Can you touch on that a little bit? I think that's important maybe for someone to understand that, like, thinks, well, I don't really know if I have what it takes. Like, I still have a lot more to learn. Like, could I even be one?
Yeah. I think one of the main things is to be willing and able to kind of walk into situations where there is some ambiguity. And the truth is that no matter how much of an expert you are, you're never going to have faced every possible scenario. So I think there's enough of a sense of, for me anyway, and let me even back up a second and say that the bulk of my work with clients is in the world of dentistry. And I'm not a dentist. So sometimes my wife will ask me, well, how do you know what to say to all of these dentists and people working in the dental profession when you've never been that? And my answer is I'm not speaking, for me personally, I'm not doing industry specific systems and processes. So I don't have to know that. My company is called People Plus Purpose because I'm working to help develop people with a clarified purpose for what they want to accomplish. I'm able to do that in any industry because my focus is on helping to guide and develop and mentor people. and look at their unique strengths and how can we apply the strengths that we see in their assessment insights to be able to help them be set free to keep moving forward. Now, it could be done differently to where, for example, you could say, I come from dental, or I come from legal, or I come from the financial world, and I want to coach people in those specific things. Some of it might be very industry specific, and then then your expertise would be greatly in those industry specific areas. But regardless of any of those possibilities, it's the sense of your own competence to be able to have some skill sets for working with people and guiding them, whether that was a lot of knowledge and expertise in that industry or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that brings up a good discussion that I wanted to have you share as well, and that is where the coaching certification fits in different industries, right? So, for example, somebody could be a manager, or they could be in HR, or whatever the case may be. So, it there's a lot of applications for this, and just love to have you share a little bit about that.
Yeah, and there's different things that you can do. I mean, you could say, I would love to create and build my own coaching business, and that is an option. Another option is you could get a job working with an existing coaching organization across any number of industries. You could also collaborate with others to create kind of a multidisciplinary coaching approach. I have one particular collaboration that I'm working on right now where I'm bringing the people plus purpose element, and the other person is bringing more of a front office optimization, more system process that is industry specific, more of a patient experience kind of element, and also how to be more liberated from insurance. So it's a wonderful kind of synergistic blend to bring different contributions to any particular client. So that's another way that you could design kind of what you're doing. And then even within that, we're also inviting some individuals who go through the People Plus Purpose Coach Certification Program to be independent contractor coaches under the umbrella of People Plus Purpose. So there's possible opportunity there as well. But another scenario, like you mentioned there, is that you may currently work in HR. You might be a manager or leader in a specific company, and you'd like to expand your skill sets to make an even greater contribution to that company, or to position yourself for a larger leadership and mentorship role. So you don't have to build your own company. You don't have to have a coaching company that's yours, or work for a specific coaching organization, or kind of co-develop a program. You can work in a company and bring the skill sets that we are providing through this coach certification to be able to better navigate certain roles supporting the advancement of people in the company that you work with, and bring extra value. I mean, this could be something that really elevates your value in your work for that company.
So two things on that note. The first is, would love to have everybody really take in what Matthew just said, in the sense that when I think about how business is changing, Matthew, and there are individuals that are starting their own companies, they're out there solving problems. They're experts in a particular field, right? And then hopefully through success, they're scaling. Mm-hmm. And I see it so often, right? Where that individual or individuals as co-founders start a particular company, and that's what they love. That's what they're good at. And then they get to a point where they have 5 team members and 10 and 15. And you so often hear them say that it's the scale, which in a lot of cases holds them back. And if you have said so eloquently before, like a lot of that is people building and people development and all of that. And so, I mean, that's just another example, like hearing you talk about this, of like somebody, like you mentioned, being in a company and benefiting from their own personal development, through this coaching certification piece. The other question that I had is along the lines of somebody just starting out in their role in a company, like you mentioned, or later in their career. Talk about kind of like the differences in those two, but like, of course, the same thing, the benefit of having this, based on where they are in their career.
Okay, great. That's a great question. But let me go back to even what you said prior to that, which is to say that many people have certain skill sets, uh, uh, technical knowledge that have equipped them to succeed in their role in a company. And then they get promoted. And they get promoted often into something that's more of a manager leadership role, which they often are not equipped for. They sometimes, because I have longevity in this company, the natural movement seems to be moving towards more management, but that often will take people out of the place where they thrive, out of their where they're comfortable being able to deliver at a high level. So part of going through a coach certification training program like this is that it can equip you to be able to better thrive as a manager or a leader should you desire to move more into that role, or should you naturally end up getting moved into a position like that, that you can, it requires greater people skill sets. And I think that's a key piece. It's how do I better communicate? How do I better collaborate with people? How do I better inspire them to take action? And I think this will help facilitate that within a given organization. So, but back to what you said in terms of where does this fit in the arc of a career? You could have spent years already, even decades, achieving a high level of mastery in a specific business domain. And now you'd like to share that expertise as a coach. You'd like to be able to have maybe more freedom to recreate. Maybe you want to work from home instead of continuing to travel to a business location. So now you have a chance to to share your expertise and redesign your career to be able to support people through coaching. And this was really more my story, right? This is how I got to this place. I had 33 years as a doctor taking care of patients, but overlapped the end of that career phase with the development of, just life led me in that direction to where I was moving into more of a coaching, mentoring sort of role. And it became a next phase step for me that also gave me some of those freedoms we're talking about. But another key option is you could just be beginning your business life and you don't have years of expertise. And it just sounds exciting to you to be able to master a strengths-based coaching opportunity to be able to help people and to have that be the expertise you're developing. So in other words, you are mastering the ability to coach and develop people, not based on previous career knowledge or expertise, but that becomes your expertise in a sense, not differently than if you were to go to school to, say, become, a marriage and family therapist or a psychologist. That kind of is your thing to help develop people or to resolve issues. You're not coming into it because you had a different career that you had developed those skill sets in. So that is kind of another consideration too, is that you might want to save the time and the money from going to spending all those years in college to become a marriage family therapist, licensed clinical social worker, psychologist, all of those things, and also be more liberated from having to be bound to, some of the restrictions that are there in terms of I can only work within my own state because there's specific licensing requirements that bind me to that. And instead, you could build something that was a national or international business, all working from your home as a coach that would kind of transcend some of those limitations. And I've got people going through the program right now where that was a key decision. They just didn't really want, it didn't fit with the life and a new child that they had to be able to spend 4 years or 6 years going through school to be prepared for a career in that direction.
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought of a story as you were talking about that of even the person that's earlier in their career or early in building a company has a technical skill. I think about how challenging it could be to attract talent, right? And so in this particular example, when somebody has done the work to go through that strength based coaching and they understand it, I feel like they're more attractive, right, to work for versus some of these companies that, unfortunately have situations where people come in and out, they never really know, they struggle, they're trying to scale. And then when they look in the mirror, maybe they realize, you know what, like I started here with this skill set, didn't even think about this whole people development piece. And so such a great example. I think of a time years ago of an individual that I had big visions for, right, and was very good technically in his lane. But then when it came to having to develop a team of people to be able to scale that, definitely, could have benefited from something like this. So it's such a good point. And I think the idea of the finding your own niche and still being able to help people aside from the therapist or the psychologist world, it's just a different world that we live in now. And so I think that this framework that you've created, and more importantly, like this track to help certify, is a big difference. Super exciting.
And one more thought about that is that we're not only in going through this coach certification training equipping you to look through a strengths-based lens to help others, but it starts with you. If you are the visionary leader of your own career, of your life, and really it should start with, where are your strengths? What are you inspired to do? And so the type of contribution you want to make, how you would structure that, whether it is your own business or you're going to work alongside someone else and do something together, or it's going to be within the context of a larger organization, that's going to have a lot to do with your behavioral strengths, with your cognitive strengths. What are you prepared for? And where are you going to thrive? I mean, these are things that we can determine by looking through this multidimensional assessment lens to see, how do you even build your best coaching career?
Yeah, no question. Any final thoughts? Again, I think such a great topic. People, there's several different ways to take advantage of becoming certified, and I think you've laid the groundwork these first couple episodes of getting somebody to think about being a coach, and then this really is the next step. And so, any final thoughts?
Well, I think I spent quite a bit on if you were not a coach. So let me just say just a little bit about if you're already a coach is the other piece that I need to say a little bit more about. So, I mean, you might currently be a coach, either that's you're working for yourself or you're part of a larger organization, and maybe you want to refine your skills. Maybe you'd like to develop something new in looking more fully through a strengths-based assessment lens. You'd like to have a certification that would help add additional credibility and evidence of the commitment you've put into this, or an additional certification to your resume. And one example is, if you go to my coach certification landing page, on there is a video from Mickey. And Mickey was the first person actually to go a while back through the coach certification training. And she's a perfect example of this because she'd already been a high-level coach for 7 years and in a very industry-specific way. But she was introduced to me and was drawn to the idea of this kind of more personalized, strengths-based ability to deliver value to people. And she also liked the idea of when we spoke about being able to do some work under the People Plus Purpose umbrella, which she is now doing. And so it's from that initial, she was already successful. She already had value to give. She was a top level coach in a larger organization. And yet there was she wanted to build something more that was her own business. And this has been kind of the additional piece that has helped her do that. So I think two different tracks that we mentioned. One, you're not a coach and you'd like to find out if this could be a good career fit, or you're already a coach and what might this add?
Yeah, I love that. And next episode, speaking of that, you're going to get into the power of, personalization. And I think what we're seeing across all industries, Matthew, as you know, is like this niched focus, right? People are really understanding it's a combination of like what they're passionate about, what they're an expert in, what they want to help people with. And of course, there has to be a match, right? There are people in that industry that need that help. And so I know you're going to get into more of how to build this personalized coaching business and then the certification that comes with it, through your program. So be sure everybody, tune in to episode 4 where Matthew's going to get into more of that. And if you have not subscribed, if you're like me and you like to listen to this stuff when you're like running around the house, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, be sure to subscribe to The Compass with Dr. Matthew Norton. And of course, on all of his People Plus Purpose social media channels. So Matthew, thanks for another episode and for all the work that you're doing in this coaching space, and can't wait to see you for the next one.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody.